Hello, good morning, and welcome to Morning Brew here on Labour Social. Politics Social. God, still getting used to that. I'm Graham Hughes. It is Tuesday, the 18th of June, 2024. I'm filling in for Phil today. Filling in for, see what I did there? And we're going to be talking about, I'm sorry. I apologise in advance, but we are going to be talking about reform. And I think that it's kind of incredibly frustrating for a lot of us that reform have kind of hijacked this election. We really wanted just to watch the Tories wither away on the vine and cark it in the most humiliating manner possible, but that doesn't look like it's going to happen. It looks like, it does look like it's going to happen, but it doesn't look like that's going to be the main thing we can focus on, because reform are seemingly everywhere. On the front cover of newspapers, they're all over the news. I'm having to see that Farage creep's face every day when I open up web pages. When I go on Twitter, there he is. I mean, Boris Johnson put in an appearance yesterday looking for all the world like an after picture for crystal meth. And, I'm like, I don't want to see these faces. I don't want to see Trump. I don't want to see Johnson. I certainly don't want to see Farage. The people of Clacton elect Nigel Farage as their MP. He's not doing that to attend debates in Parliament. He's not doing that to represent the people of Clacton. He doesn't even like Clacton. He won't be there. He'll just be on the telly every day, going bah, 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 out of his horrible, gruesome gob. Anyway, I want to take you over to a report done by Sam Coates on Sky TV. Don't know if you've seen this already, but if you haven't, I'm going to go over here and watch it together, because this is to do with the budgeting of Sky, which is the budgeting of reform, or refuck, as I like to call them. Let's have a look. Let's have a look what they've got in plan. Because the thing is, at the moment, they at best could get 7 seats. They probably might not get any, but at best they could get 7 seats. So they can just pledge whatever the hell they want. They can just say, yes, free moon bananas to every citizen, and skating shoes, and millions of pounds in the bank, and sunsets for all. They can claim anything. They can claim anything because they're not going to be in power. So people can go, oh, I'm voting for them because they're going to raise the income tax threshold to £20,000, which would be nice. But if it's uncosted, then you're heading over to the Liz Truss territory. Liz Truss. Anyway, let's have a look.
Do the figures actually add up? And with Reform's manifesto, or contract as they want to call it, look, here are the big figures, OK? They say they want to bring in £150 billion and want to get £141 billion out of the door. They're big numbers. I'll come back to that in a second. But the key thing is here, look, that bar is bigger than that bar, and that actually looks quite sensible because you've got more money coming in than you've got going out. There's a £9 billion buffer, so that looks good.
Oh, that's
but
good.
Let's just dig into
great.
What these bars actually comprise, and you'll see there are actually a few holes in them. Here's the money coming in. Let's focus on the money going out. Okay, we've broken it down into all the main policy areas here, and the biggest of them, £70 billion, is this bar. That's all the tax cuts, or a lot of the tax cuts. Raising the income tax personal allowance to £20,000. You've got cutting stamp duty to 0%, basically abolishing it for anyone buying a house below £750,000. You've got inheritance tax, basically abolishing inheritance tax below £2 million. That's a lot of stuff, very expensive. So raising the question, can you actually afford it? And that's where these bars come in, OK? So we'll focus on the biggest of them first of all. That's the biggest money raiser, slashing wasteful spending. And the way that Reform want to do this is basically saying every £5 and every £100 needs to be cut of the government budget. Now, that's current spending. This bar over here, that's the money they want to raise. But there's a few questions here, OK? First of all, what about the state pension? Reform hasn't said they want to cut the state pension, so you probably can't include that. What about welfare? That's £180 billion. Well, Reform has said they do want to cut welfare, but they've counted it somewhere else in their manifesto, so you can't really include that in this calculation. That brings all of this down to £680 billion. You see the issue, we're going down here. Although you could ask the same question about defence and international aid. Defence they want to raise the spending on, international aid they want to cut, but they've already counted it elsewhere. So really, strictly speaking, if you want to be accurate about this, you want to not count that, and that brings this total down to £610 billion. And so if we do the exercise all over again and work out £5 in every 100 of this, Just look at this bar. It goes down to £30 billion. May not seem like much of a difference, but if we factor that back into the big picture here, look, that bar's lower. We tot it all up. Previously, that's what you had, £150 billion, that £9 billion buffer. It looked pretty positive, but now, look, that goes down to £130 billion. It's below that bar. You've got a black hole. It's like Liz Truss all over again. More money going out
Liz Truss
than coming in.
Again.
And that's a big issue here, and it's only looking at one particular part of this. But another thing just worth mentioning here is the scale of what we're talking about. These were the manifestos from the Labour, the Conservative, the Lib Dems. The higher the bars are, the more kind of money going out, basically, as a result of those manifestos. Now look at reform. Just look at that. Look at how high that bar is. The only other party in terms of, ambition that comes anywhere close to that is, of all parties, the Green Party.
Well, there you go. So, yeah, that's... That summed it up very succinctly. Thank you there to Sam Coates at Sky. I mean, they obviously haven't costed their manifestos budget because they don't need to. VFuck is a private company, which, like, Nigel Farage is the majority shareholder. They don't have any members. They've just got, like, followers, maybe, if you're being generous, or people who just give them money, so donors, I guess, but they're not members. And they're putting forward any old crap that they can just pull out their arse because they know they'll never have to enact it. But it is incredibly seductive to a certain mindset of people. But let's just have a look at the things they were offering there, right? Putting up inheritance tax to £2 million tax-free. That is absolutely abhorrent. They don't live in the real world. You know, around here where I live in Durham, the houses are going for 100 grand. You know, no one around here is going to pay inheritance tax. No one in Clacton is going to be paying inheritance tax now, as things are. And don't forget, inheritance tax at the moment, if you inherit a house from your mum and dad, you are tax-free up to £1 million at the moment. £1 million you can get tax-free. But that's not enough for the super wealthy, for the Coates Bank type people like Nigel Farage, Boris Johnson and all that lot. They're banging on about inheritance tax. And also they don't want to put VAT on school fees, which you would think, reading the Times or the Telegraph, that it was 93% of children who went to private school and only 7% of us that didn't. When actually it's the other way around. And subsidising these schools costs a lot more to the taxpayer than sending kids to state schools. And also, state schools are getting smaller. State schools are closing down because they just don't have the pupils because we're not having children because it's too expensive to have children in this country. So we're not having any kids because the Tories have made it too expensive to do that with our lives, which was nice of them. In fact, if you look all at the data now, we're losing about 100,000 school places each year. Like the kids aren't there. And you extrapolate that out to the end of the decade, to 2030, you've got 700,000 kids who aren't going to be going to school in state schools. do you know how many kids go to private school? It's less than 700,000. So even if every single private school kid went to a state school, it would make no difference. It would be what it is now in terms of the cost to the taxpayer. Exactly what it is. In fact, there'll be a saving because, as I keep trying to explain to people, there's so many tax loopholes and so many little dodges that these very, very rich people can do so that they don't pay any tax and we subsidise the tax that they would have paid. Don't forget, if someone gives £1 million to their old alter mater, their old school, their old private school, and adds gift aid to it, we effectively subsidise an extra 25% out of our taxes. Because they're charities, darling. You know, they're charities for rich kids. And I don't think that Nigel... Well, I think Nigel Farage knows exactly what he's doing, but I don't think he cares that his manifesto, his spending promises are not going to help any of the people that he says he's going to help. You know, it just isn't. The idea of putting stamp duty up to, what was it, 750,000? Inheritance tax up to threshold up to 2 million, and it just means that you are getting a lot of people who perhaps don't think they're rich, but they are. you know, you meet these people, don't you? The people who live in very, very big detached houses who go, right, I'm working class, you see, because I work. And you're like, I don't think that's the meaning of working class, mate. Not like, I don't think that's the meaning of it. I've worked hard for my money, which sits in a bank account or in stocks and shares and accrues interest or dividends. Yeah, you've worked hard for that money that is actually doing all the work that, you know, other people are actually doing. So yeah, it's an issue. It's an issue. And then yeah, Sarah White is saying, how do the Tories accuse Labour of overspending? I don't know. I don't know. But this is the Trussonomic manifesto. Well, they're not having a manifesto. This is another thing. Reform aren't having a manifesto because he says, whenever I hear the word manifesto, I just think lies. And I'm thinking, yeah, whenever your mouth is moving, I just think lies. Nigel Farage, horrible, horrible man. Who else have we got in the chat? Let's say hello to everyone. Let's say hello. We've got Viv in the chat there. We've got Peter Kale. We've got Frackle Puny. We've got Pete Turner. Reform Manifesto, the kamikaze budget with common sense beaten out of it. I know it. Like, had any common sense to start with. Gallifreyan Ren, give us a badger and a trans badger at that. We all love the trans badgers on here. Maybe that should be the symbol. It should be a badger, but instead of it being black and white, it's white and pink, light pink and light blue. What do you reckon? Trans badger. God, that would upset the gams, wouldn't it? Let's do it. I'll get messing on Photoshop. Knock that up for you. David Downey, thank you very much for the first super chat of the morning. Where did you get the 25,000 figure for private school funding? This was a figure that was put together by I'm going to forget now. I think it was I want to say the Institute for Fiscal Studies, but I don't think it was. There was a report that they brought out, and it went into all the different tax dodges. And I'll have to link to it because I don't like spewing stuff out without having something to back it up. But essentially, when you tie in the gift aid, the lack of tax paid at the moment, the VAT. So this is like something obvious that, you know, if you spend £50,000 sorting out your extension on your house, you'll pay VAT on that, right? So and whoever does the work will pay VAT as well. So on their earnings, if it's a company earning over X amount, so you'll pay VAT on the materials, you pay VAT on the labour, everything else. If you took that £50,000 and gave it to a private school, so little Tarquin or Guinevere could get a better job when they grow up, which is almost guaranteed, then you don't pay any VAT on that. The school doesn't pay any VAT on it, and so that £50,000, which, you know, 10,000 of which should have come to the Exchequer, none of that comes to the Exchequer. And then you've got things like the outreach projects that these places do, and you know, it's a bit of a con because obviously they need to show that they're being a bit charitable. They're trying to help out with the community when really the facilities in these places are off the charts. And a child at Eton gets access to 140 times more green space than your average state school child. 140 times, according to a report that came out yesterday. That was reported in The Guardian. And so you've got gift aid, you've got VAT, you've also got capital gains tax avoidance if you're putting it into a school because it's a charity, and there's all kind of loopholes around there. Don't forget, a lot of top accountants want to send their kids to these top schools. They know what they're doing. Yeah, essentially the amount of facilities that they have, because don't forget that they get given basically as a charity. They don't have to pay, like, I mean, we're talking billions altogether across all the thousands of private schools. They avoid billions in tax every year. So when you work that out based on how many kids go to private schools, you get at a figure of around £25,000, which is just unbelievable. That's also, you know, that's on top of whatever the parents pay. Because we also subsidise a lot of these spaces in sort of private special schools, like the one where the teachers were being abusive. I hope you saw that story yesterday on the BBC. The local authority pays millions into that school at a cost of around £50,000 per child for them to go to that specialist school. And that's, you know, another that's more taxpayers' money going into those schools, which, again, I keep stressing this, don't have to be inspected by Ofsted. They don't want to be. They don't have to follow the national curriculum if they don't want to. So when state schools are having to teach kids stuff that is not going to come up in the exam, so they're going to be doing history about the Romans, but they know damn well there's going to be nothing about the Romans in the GCSE that they will do in a couple of years' time, or the Vikings or whatever. In the private schools, they can just teach them exactly what's going to be in the GCSE from year 7. Or year 9, I guess. They go in at 13, don't they? Johnny Copperhead, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. That's very kind of you. Forage is the poster boy for IEA economics. Also a disgusting, rancid toad. And One Angry Pagan says, all hail the badger. Thank you very much to Johnny Copperhead for that super chat there. That's really kind of you. Right, should we just quickly go and have a look at the... Should we just go and very quickly have a look at the papers for tomorrow? Do you want to do this with me? Just give me a moment because I've got to reset the screen from the last thing that was up there, which was Sam Coates. Good old Sam Coates on Sky. The fact that so few people are pushing back on Farage, when they do, he gets all moody. He kicks off. He's like, "Oh, how dare you ask me? How dare you? Oh, this is boring. Oh God, I don't have to justify any of my policies that I'm saying I'm going to do. That they just work, all right." And but because of the purdah on, it's not really purdah, but it's not an official purdah. But because no one's really talking about the Brexit, it allows Nigel Farage not to talk about it. So it's a bit of an issue, I'd have to say. Right. Anyway, so here are the papers for tomorrow. This morning. I was going to say tomorrow. No, it's today. 16 days to the election. 2 weeks and 2 days till Starmageddon. Can't wait. Right. Banking giant dire warning on Labour pledges. There's some lies from the Daily Express saying the HSBC say Starmer will trigger higher mortgage bills and surge in unemployment. If HSBC did say that, that is an absolute dereliction of duty by HSBC to remain impartial in elections. That is absolutely grotesque if they have said that. I've got a feeling they didn't say that. And if you dig down into the article, maybe it's someone who works at HSBC at a local branch or something. I don't know. I'm not going to bother reading it because it's the Express. It's going to be lies. They're allowed to print lies. That's the rules right now. Press regulates itself, and so they just print lies. Police get to regulate themselves. You get a few bad apples. No, you don't. You get hundreds, maybe thousands of bad apples who do horrible things like murder women and run over cows and beat people up for being the wrong colour. I mean, you don't let any, you just don't let any sector regulate itself. It's the maddest thing. You don't let politicians regulate themselves. Why would you do that? They're not going to regulate in the best interests of everyone, are they? They're going to regulate in the best interests of themselves, obviously. And when we have these stupid quangos, government quangos like Ofwat and Ofcom, and Ofsted, who are bloody useless. Ofsted, run by a woman, privately educated, of course, who has driven a head teacher to suicide. And it just trundles on. No, we'll just give one word to sum up an entire school. Yeah, we'll just give one word. No pressure. It's like being in school and getting your report back and it says could do better if you tried. And you're like, it's not really helping. Anyway, don't risk a generation of socialism. So this is the Times, the Murdoch rag. Don't risk a generation of socialism. Why not? Is capitalism working for you? Is it? It's not working for me. Don't know about you. It's not working for me. I could do with some socialism in my life. I could do with some state control over these industries that are running amok, destroying the planet and pouring untold quantities of shit into our rivers. Rishi, this is on the front cover of the Daily Mail, so take it with a large dosage of salt. Take it with an entire salt plane from Bolivia. Rishi, Kia only wants votes at 16 to entrench his power. Oh, You mean like young people are going to vote for Labour? It's just the same party that made it so that if you've got an old person's Oyster card, you can use that as voting ID. But if you've got a young person's voter card, you can't. Oh. Oh. Okay. By the way, people won't vote at 16. It's a really good point made by Femi a few weeks ago, and I hadn't thought about it until he said it, but he said general elections are only every 5 years. So the average age that most people vote is 20 and a half. Because you might be 18, like I was in 97, be lucky, or you might have to wait till you're nearly 22 or 22 years old before you can vote in your first election, somewhere in between. So not all 16-year-olds are going to be able to vote in a general election. In fact, moving it to 16 will make the average age of people for the first time they vote, it'll make it 18 and a half, which is about right. With some people having to wait till they're 21. Instead of, at the moment, people having to wait till they are 23 years old before voting, depending on the circumstances. Is this the same HSBC that got fined hundreds of millions for facilitating money laundering on an industrial scale? Says Business Cat. Yes. If you go to Hong Kong, HSBC print their own banknotes. I shit you not. Okay, let's move down here. Welcome in England. This is the Mirror. Very strange headline about welcoming British people to watch the football. Sorry, English people. God, sorry. Welcoming English people to watch the football. Front cover of a newspaper during an election. Come on. And then Farage accused of cut and spend manifesto. That doesn't add up. We've just seen the clip from Sancoats. And then we've got this really weird picture of our future king. Not him. Not this gobshite. But the other guy. What's his name? Thingy. William, that's him. I just realised I'm just not liking that that picture there of that fella. Just don't like him. I'm just gonna sort that out. Okay, just give me a second. There you go. So much better. Okay, Ivan, thank you very much for the super chat, mate. I'm gonna give you a super chat animation. Hey. I'm fed up of autism not being talked about. The Tories have failed autistic people terribly. I have faith in Labour to turn this around, but what are they going to do about it? Ivan, I'm hoping to speak to a friend of mine who is an educational psychologist on how we fix Britain. And she's been working in the field since 2001. So she was working in this sector. Christ, it's not an industry. Working in this sector from all the way through the Labour administration until 2010, and then now all the way through the Tories in the last 14 years. And I'd like to talk to her about how our understanding of mental health has increased, but our actual doing anything to help has decreased, almost like at the same rate of one going up and one going down. And it's absolutely disgraceful that young people and adults with autism who are on the autistic spectrum, or they've got ADHD, or they're suffering from depression or borderline personality disorder, whatever it is, are just not getting the support they need. When you have to wait 3 years to get a diagnosis of autism as a child, that could be a third of your entire life waiting up to that point, waiting to find out if you are autistic. Now, what they do at the moment, as far as I'm aware, is if you're being, if you're in the process of being diagnosed, there will be special amenities put on for you. Things will be facilitated, but it's not the same as getting the treatment that you need to be able to just cope with everyday life, which autistic people with ADHD, people with borderline find very difficult. And it's not difficult for society to be able to accommodate people who are on the autistic spectrum or any kind of mental health spectrum. It's not that difficult, but it starts with understanding, and it starts with people just not being so like, oh, maybe they're pretending, maybe, that kind of attitude of like, it's why I really hate Little Britain, not just because it's two private school kids basically ripping the shit out of working class people, which is most of their skits, But that particular skit where it's got the guy in the wheelchair and he's not really disabled, that can like fuck off all the way, all the way. And I really like looking back now. I never particularly found it funny. I always thought it was a pale imitation of League of Gentlemen without the heart. League of Gentlemen, it did love its grotesques, but Little Britain, no. And that same attitude, right? It cuts across everything. It cuts across disabled people, cuts across people with mental health problems. Maybe they're just pretending. Maybe they're just, they just want the attention. And then the other one is trans people. Or I mean, they used to say this about gay people, didn't they? Or maybe they're just doing it for attention. Maybe it's a phase they're going through. And now it's for trans people. That maybe they're pretending. Maybe it'll be a man and he'll pretend to be a woman so he can attack women, which just never happens. Like it just does. I mean, compared with the attacks on women by cisgender men, which are carried out every day, and they get away with it, and they're going after trans people because maybe they're pretending. Maybe it's not real. And I think I'm particularly prickly about this because having a partner who's deaf, so that's a non-visible disability, and yet often she has to prove she's deaf, and she's like, I'm wearing what do you want me to do? I'm wearing hearing aids. It's not like you get a card from the government saying that you are deaf. We have got a card from the Durham City Council that says profoundly deaf on it, but that's not accepted in other authorities around the country, would you believe? So if we go somewhere and they have a policy for disabled people and they say, oh no, you've got to prove that you're deaf because you might be pretending, like that guy, the bald guy in the wheelchair out a little bit, you might be pretending, you're not allowed to use the card that you get from the Durham City Council to say that you're deaf. Obviously it just fixes itself if you go across a county boundary. Stop insulting frogs, says Helen Wilkes. Thank you very much for that. No, the frog is much more attractive to look at than Farage's ugly mug. And thanks for the super chat there. Puddinator, I'm in my mid-20s. I'm waiting on a diagnosis of neurodivergence, is that? ND currently. The more I learn, the more I think I am, but only time will tell. Thanks very much for that, Puddinator. I applied to get a diagnosis for ADHD. My brother's got it. My nephew's got it. Pretty sure most of my family's got it. Got it? That's a bad way of putting it. But yeah. But yeah, I've been waiting now for 8 months, I think. There's literally no such thing as laziness, so addressing that preconception would be a good start. Yeah, Alan Walker, that's very true. I've been waiting 2 years for my lad to get a diagnosis. We hope August this year. Chris, it's the waiting. It's just so cruel and pointless, and like it's something that can be assessed very, very quickly. It's not like you got to wait to see if it goes away. These, and also one of the big problems, and I should mention this while I know we're supposed to be talking the papers, but let's just go into this for a moment. Mental health changes over your lifetime. You might have one particular mental health issue at the age of 21. By the time you are diagnosed with that, your brain chemistry, I know that's a bad way of putting it, I know it's more complex than that, but essentially the issues that you were having, you might not be having those particular issues anymore. They might have moved on to different issues, which you haven't been diagnosed for. And at that point in your life, you might be getting the wrong treatment for what you are struggling with. It's just an absolute minefield. But I know Labour are planning to take mental health very seriously, and I bloody hope so. One of the first things I heard about during the austerity years, speaking to friends in Liverpool, was that the council had to shut down the child bereavement service in Liverpool. They had to, or at least trim it down, so kids weren't getting the amount of counselling that they were getting when they had lost a parent, because of the cuts by the national government. So we see this stuff every day when we go out and drive, and we see potholes in the road, or even get the bus going past. Even when you're going down the road, you can see the physical manifestation of the cut to council spending. And that's why council tax is going up everywhere, because the Tories have cut the funding coming from central government for loads and loads of services. It's like, demanding someone, it doesn't work. And so you're the only money that they can get, really. And then demanding more things of them and saying, well, you're not giving me any money. How can I do it? That's why councils are going bankrupt. Not necessarily because they're badly run. It's because the government has just screwed them over. Hasn't screwed over the mates, though. Anyway, this is a story from the Eye here. Farage, it's impossible. Impossible. I know it's being obscured by the frog. If reform would keep low tax pledge. Yeah. So basically, Reform leader admits that his party's manifesto promises may not add up in his interview with the Eye newspaper. There you have it. And then there's this weird picture of our future king there, dressed like a absolute plonker. But there you go. He's entered the Order of the Garter. The Garter, is that like one of the things that you wear around your leg when you get married? Is that a garter? Is that a garter? No, it's a garland. Is it? That goes around your neck. I don't know. Whatever. It's just a weird name for. It's like the Order of the Bath, isn't it? Me first, everyone else second. Order of the Bath. Tories turn to Johnson to counter reform. So the Tories have wheeled Boris Johnson out to go, well, we've got to vote for this local candidate and stop Labour from bringing in a socialist, monolithic social state of communism and all that. And I was in plane the other day in Peppa Pig Land, and we went over the briny and crashed a kite, and I was very, very drunk. Which is my impression of Boris Johnson. Don't worry, I won't ever do that again. Right, let's scoot away from Farage and we can get rid of the frog. Bye, frog. Hero patient stopped bomber killing nurses. This is an amazing story about a guy who was outside the hospital smoking a biff there, and he talked a suicide bomber out of like blowing himself up. It's an amazing story. He should get a hero award. Not for smoking though, that's naughty. And then there's a picture of Vladimir Zelensky there on the front cover of the Financial Times. Also, French bosses build ties with Le Pen as left triggers alarm, which is alarming. Le Pen being, a bit of a Nazi. And then we go to yesterday's newspaper. So I'm going to go back to my original thing. Hello, how you doing? Right, let's talk about autism and Asperger's. Oh God, we don't have much time with it, but 6 minutes over. Although I was a few minutes late starting. Got a call from the energy company, and because my partner's deaf, I have to repeat everything that's said on the phone so she can read my lips when someone calls up. It's very inconvenient. And then you spend 5 minutes on the phone to them, and it's like, can we do this via email? And they're like, oh, yeah, we can do it by email. Like, oh, fucking do it by email then, idiots. But yeah, that's why I was late. Alan Walker, need a nationally standardized lanyard color-coded for disability type. Yeah, I mean, we've got the sunflower lanyard, which my partner wears when we go to the airport. Because obviously, she got. Think about this for a moment. If you're in an airport or you're on a train or you're in any kind of public transport thing, like you get announcements, don't you? Go to gate, whatever, last call, and if you're on a train, you don't necessarily have a electronic board. You might do, but some trains don't. And if there's a delay or there's a problem on board, there is literally no way for the deaf person on board to know that there is a problem because they won't hear it. And it's just one of those things that like you don't think of until someone points it out to you and you're like, oh yeah, I can see why that's a problem. But we had, everyday ableism, I guess. But we had a situation earlier in the year in Manchester Airport, which is the worst airport in the world, in which we were in the lane for the lanyard, but because my partner wasn't in a wheelchair, they were like, no, you've got to go into the normal lane. And it was like, but we were told to come into this lane because we've got this sunflower lanyard. Why are you? And there was just this one woman who was like, no, I'm sorry, this is wheelchairs only. There's wheelchairs only, and I'm like moving us towards. Yeah, degrees of disability. My mother now gone, was blind. She had a blue badge. I cannot count the number of times I took it out and was challenged once by a parking attendant. She gave me a ticket outside the doctor. Yeah, Mike, that's exactly what I'm talking about. The assumption that people are lying, the assumption that people are swinging the lead is disgusting, and it's got to stop because it makes people who do need help not want to ask for it because they think, oh, no one's going to believe me. And things are bad enough as they are right now, without people joining in and going, well, should you be parking in that spot? Well, I've got a disability badge. Ah, yeah, but how are you actually disabled? Yes. Oh, but you got legs. Yeah, but that's not the only disability, mate. The more I loll around my aunts, uncles, and cousins, I reckon shot half are on the spectrum. Yeah. I've been watching House of Cards. Is Sunak cosplaying as Francis Urquhart? No, come on, he's not that smart. He's not that smart. My mother now gone blind. Oh, I've read that one. Sorry, from Mike Organ. Sunak couldn't possibly be Farquaad. Farquaad has an ounce of charisma. Is that from Shrek? Howard Risby. Why stop at lanyards? Tattoo a QR code on people's foreheads. Much easier for security scanners to read and contain much more detail. Michael says, I once had to someone yell at me for using the term not yet disabled. That was a fun day at college. Everyone is either disabled or not yet disabled. It's a sliding scale and we go up and down. That's a good point. Did you make a complaint about Manchester Airport, Graham? That's from Ivan. No, we didn't. Look, Manchester Airport is just hell on earth as far as I'm concerned. I don't like flying, and it's not because I don't like being in a plane. I'm not scared of flying. I just hate airports with every fiber in my body. It is like the coming together of all the things I hate. Modern architecture, lots of big empty space, so many people, and a queue. And you have to queue for this, queue for that, queue for the other thing, and I hate it. It just boils my piss. And Manchester Airport is by far the worst airport that I've ever had the misfortune to fly in or out of. It is just on another level of just dysfunctional horribleness. I think the ceiling in the room that I'm in at the moment is higher than the ceiling in the security area when you're going through. It's dingy, it's badly lit, it's people everywhere. Half of the conveyor belts when we weren't working, and everyone's bag was getting fed off to one side so they could go through it and pull out like a toothpaste or lip salve or something. This is a liquid, and it's like, is it okay? My brain hasn't woken up yet, says Duke Vengeance. I know the feeling, mate. Luxor Airport has to be the worst airport I've ever been in. I've never been to Luxor Airport, but I've been to Cairo Airport, which is pretty rum. But it's a developing nation. Can't say the same about Britain. Punninator, I'm in a wheelchair and had someone decide just to lean on the back, making me do a wheelie because they probably need it more than I do. What? Isn't it just the most bizarre way of reacting to people? And just, yeah, it just blows my mind that we have foisted upon our children of this generation these attitudes of, yeah, what if they're faking it? What if they're just doing it to get attention? And to go back to that, and a content warning here, trigger warning, it's what a lot of people think about rape victims of SA. They think, oh, what if they're just making it up? What if they're just saying it to get attention? What if they're just saying it to get back at someone? So here's the stat that people probably need to get through their heads, especially these, men's rights, incels and stuff. Men are more likely to be sexually assaulted themselves than to be accused falsely of sexual assault. Metal detectors didn't work and a copy carrying an AK-47 walked through it and didn't beep. Oh my God. So can I just put in a good word for my Italian uni where I lecture? They've done every last thing to the nth degree to make sure I could do my job. They've been brilliant. That's awesome. Sue, and the company that my partner works for now, they've been absolutely brilliant. And it was during lockdown when everything went online, she actually found things easier for her because of the advent of subtitles. So this show, you can watch live subtitles. They mostly get it right, and that makes life a lot easier because just imagine you're in a meeting with people, no one can sign, and everyone is talking, sometimes all at the same time, but you've got to look at their mouths, and you might not know them, and they might have different mouth patterns depending on where they're from. So, for instance, if they're from Scotland, yeah, good luck with that. Get them to spell something. They'll say, what does that letter begin with? What does that word begin with? They'll say, yeah. And that's hard enough for me who can hear, because it sounds like something between an A and an E. It's a Scottish E. And but if you're deaf, no chance. So you're basically only getting maybe one in, maybe half of the words that people are saying, and just trying to guess your best guess at what they are actually saying. And it's really mentally draining to do that. It's like the difference between doing a quick crossword and a cryptic crossword. You got to try and work out in real time what people are saying and keep up with it all. Keep up with the conversation with different mouth patterns. You might have people, who have big beards that make it difficult to see their lips and all that kind of stuff. And then you've got to kind of put it all together and then say, your part in it without making it sound like you don't know what's going on. So when subtitles are available, absolute bonza. So actually moving away from an office environment, moving into working from home, makes things a lot easier for people who have certain disabilities. And yeah, bring it on. Great. That's exactly the way it should be. And this technology doesn't just help people who are disabled. And I'll say this about like anything to do with making things easier for people who are disabled, like ergonomics, right? So all of the way that we build buildings and everything in buildings, the chairs, the height of doorknobs, the height of light switches, all that kind of stuff is designed around the physique of a man, always a man, never a woman, a man who is 5'10". And that doesn't accommodate for a lot of other people and a lot of women who are not 5'10", and therefore things aren't convenient. The shelves are too high in the supermarket, etc. And then making it easier for people who are in wheelchairs actually makes it easier for everyone. Having disabled ramps to get on public transport doesn't just make it easier for people who are in wheelchairs. It also makes it easier for people pushing pushchairs. It also makes it easier for people pulling their luggage on little wheelie luggage things, Sorry, I'm a backpacker. Not my style. But yeah, it makes it easier for everyone. So why not just do it? Why not have subtitles on every movie at the cinema, and then they're open to anyone to watch? An audio description on every film. So what you have with audio description is you put a pair of headphones on and only you can hear it. It's not like everyone in the cinema can hear it. You put the headphones on and you get a description of what's happening on the screen for people who are partially sighted and people who are blind. So they can go to the cinema as well. So I just press the button for Super Chat. I didn't get one, but yeah, that's just a big thank you. But yeah, honestly, I know I've gone massively over time, and you probably want to go and listen to James O'Brien, but you can listen to him on catch up and then just skip the ads. That's what I do. But yeah, it's something that's particularly close to my heart because it does infuriate me that we have this attitude. They're like, why do we have to make accommodations? And I just feel like screaming from the rooftops, those accommodations help all of us. Absolutely help all of us. And to go back to what we were talking about with autism, ADHD, it is a lot easier to forgive a friend who maybe doesn't call or, reacts in a certain way to a situation. If you know they're autistic, if you know they've got ADHD, you'll be a lot more forgiving. They're not just being a dick about something that you feel passionately about, and they don't seem to be reacting in a way that you think they should be reacting in. And so that level, that little bit of understanding allows the whole of society to work together better, and being able to forgive other people and being able to forgive yourself for what you may have done in the past. So why the hell did I do that? And knowing that it wasn't necessarily because you're a dick. I mean, it might be, but no, it was because you read the messages that were coming into your brain. You read them wrong, or read them differently. I shouldn't say wrong, but you read them differently to other people. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot more of this to be looked at. I really want to do an episode of How We Fix Britain, concentrating solely on mental health and development for young people. So hopefully that'll happen in the next few weeks. We'll have to see. because obviously it's an issue where someone goes on a show online and talks about this kind of stuff. And it's, again, one of the reasons why I changed the name from Labour Social to Politics Social, was to allow people who can't be, have to be, because of their job, they have to be politically neutral. They wouldn't really go on something called Labour Social. They would go on Politics Social. Okay, goodly mornings, everybody, says Solari the cat. Bit late. Better late than never. I bet there's some lip reading AI or something to help. Seems like the perfect use for that tech. Well, I mean, you don't need it if you've got subtitles. That's the thing. You've got so if you nowadays, if we go to like a school show or something, or go to the theatre, Catherine can put her phone onto Google Transcribe and just put it on an E, and it's honestly, unless they're singing, it just does not do. It just does not like singing at all. But if someone's talking, it gets 90 to 99% of it right. It's really, really impressive, and that's come on in leaps and bounds in the last few years. It really has. But I mean, you can't really go to the cinema for that because talk down at your phone to read what everyone's saying is a bit inconvenient. I just think they should just have subtitle showings of everything. Please do me a small favour, people. This summer, when out and about, please keep an eye on the common lizard. I'm wanting to try and gauge the population decline. Boom, much obliged. Graham, do you have a caption phone in your home? No, not a caption phone. I mean, what we did have, what are they called? The telephone, like this really old contraption. It looks like an old 1980s computer, and they had this system in teletype or something. I forgot what it was called. It was for deaf people, and basically you call up the number, and then they put you through to the number that you want to get through to, and there's a middle person, and they type out what the person on the other end is saying, and it costs like £1 a minute to use. And if you're waiting for 59 minutes to get through to your bank, you have to pay £59 just to sit there on hold, because there's someone in the middle of the line. They'll be listening into the conversation and typing it out, and it comes up on a little old crappy calculator style screen. But we don't use that. That's been superseded. I forgot what it's called, teletype or something like that. No such thing as society has ruined society. That was that quote from Margaret Thatcher. No such thing as society. Yes, there needs to be. Alan says, a recent study's conclusion stated that neurodiverse peeps have disadvantages for themselves, but benefits for them both themselves and society, so it would benefit everyone to help us integrate better. I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. Mike says, as my first and only experience of using a stick, I did thank the helpers and just ignored the hostile. I'm not proud. It's just, I think, use it or lose it. Yeah, absolutely. And Jane says, being deaf, not profoundly, I cannot go to the cinema now without subtitles. I'm totally lost. Same with programs on the TV. Yeah, Jane. So after the election, I'm going to be starting a campaign called Subtitles On. And it's going to be a national campaign to get subtitles on all films in this country, because 10% of the population have hearing loss. And cinemas are dying on their arse. Thanks to streaming and COVID and etc. And plenty of crap films. So anyway, I'll just see if there's anything else there. Type talk system or something like that. I don't know. It was just dead expensive and crap and not very helpful to people who are disabled, because you've got to pay your disability tax. You've got to pay your disability tax. Everything's got to be a little bit more expensive. Anyway, why are DWP sending out migration notices now, as we are in general election period? As Minister said, they are not. Because the Department of Work and Pensions is evil. Hopefully, in 2.5 weeks' time, it's going to be less evil. Fingers crossed. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. Thanks for the super chat. Sorry we got completely derailed there, and we've gone over time by about 20 minutes, but it's fine. You don't have to stick with us. I'll be back in the morning at 9:30 with Morning Brew. But before then, I'll be back this evening at 7:30 in the evening for Geoscope. Come and watch us. Me and Ollie will be discussing various things. Let me see the list. Before I go, so you know what we're going to be talking about. Ollie sends me a list each morning. We're going to be talking about the Ukraine Peace Summit in Switzerland. Benjamin Disraeli. What? Benjamin Netanyahu disbands Israeli war cabinet. You see where I'll put the D from disband and Israeli to get my brain. Benjamin Netanyahu disbands the Israeli war cabinet. Putin to visit North Korea, aka the Lonely Bromance, and Tim Pool and others are now enemies of Ukraine. So we'll be talking about that at 7:30, and then if you watch that, we'll be segueing effortlessly into Maximilian's stream at 8:30. So, you know, all to play for. If there's any debates or any announcements and stuff, I might do a live show. So look out for your notifications. Hit the bell notification icon and I'll tell you when we're going live. Just for the next couple of weeks, because you never know. We might just do a show at random, depending on what's happening. I always like doing watch parties. They're always fun. Oh, and before I go, Ivan Ambrose, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. There should also be subtitles for parliamentary and other political coverage. I think there is. I think if you watch it on YouTube, it automatically generates subtitles. But you're right. Hey, fun fact: if you're deaf, you're not supposed to be able to stand in Parliament. It's a rule that's never been taken off the books. They ignore it. But if you are deaf and or dumb, you are not allowed to be an MP. There you go. That's some bit of everyday discrimination for you there. I mean, they don't uphold this, but you are actually told about it when you stand as an MP. True story. Right, thank you very much for watching. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks for the chat. Give us a like on the way out. And until next time, hello, good evening, welcome.